And we are live. Hey, fam, this is Leslie. And if it is Wednesday, it is Wine Lovers Wednesday. And I'm excited to have our guest here today. Chris, say hello to everyone.
Hey everyone, cheers. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You know, I am really loving the colors, that blue wall in the background. That is,
Yeah, this is a little tasting area sometimes that I have access to. I launched post COVID, so I have no tasting room, but I have access to a couple, and this is one of them here at the Lodi Vineyards property. It makes it really fun to just kind of sit. They have a lot of nostalgia and history on the wall about Lodi.
it's really cool. I like that. I'll have to definitely pay that a visit. It's got a nice vibe, especially for tasting wine and just chilling. And it's got like a lot of light, a really
Yeah, it
nice
is. They,
light.
they try to maximize like the fresh light coming into the room.
Yeah, yes. So I'm sorry. So Chris, please tell everybody who you are and what extraordinary things you do. And hey, Shayna, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Chris Rivera. I started Seis Soles 2 years ago. I've been making wine in Lodi for about 10 years now, working for other companies. Luckily, during that time, I got to see what people do and don't like, and especially when it comes to new wine drinkers, what they do and don't like. So 2 years ago, I decided to launch Seis Soles. It's my own brand. It has to do with my parents are from Michoacan, Mexico. I'm born and raised here, first generation born, and a lot of us aren't mixed into the wine culture yet. You might see it as a thing for others, or kind of like a thing for people that are kind of full of themselves. It's funny, the characterizations of wine in the Latino community, but really all it comes down to is that we haven't experienced it, and until they do, then they start having a good time with it, right? So that's why I launched Seis Soles, to create a brand that Latinos can see, and people that love like Latino culture and Mexicano culture, they see the branding, they see my face, and they see the story, and they might be more inclined to try wine. So I've been at it for about 2 years, trying to tell the story.
Okay. You have said a lot in 2 minutes. We got to unpack all, we got to unpack all
Sorry.
of that. Okay. So before you started making wine, what were you doing? Because you talked like in 2 minutes, you said it's not something that's often embraced in your culture, which I completely understand. So how did you how did you embrace it so that
Um,
you would start making wine?
yeah, my earliest memories are like we drink whatever we can. We were out in the almond orchards of Modesto, and somebody would take something from their parents' cabinet, and sometimes it was wine. And I remember, like it was a big tannic red. I had no idea what it was. I just remember we were drinking it, and we're like, "Yeah, this is good," and we're like trying to chew through it. So as you speed through college, and it's the same thing, not really having an appreciation for it. Not till about 10 years ago, I took an entry level job at the biggest, a big wine making facility in Modesto, because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to pay for college to become a physical therapist. And but I got involved into the little parts of wine production, and that piqued my interest into winemaking. So I started asking a lot of questions, and within about a year and a half, I decided to move to Lodi because I thought that'd be a good way to get my foot in the door somewhere. And so I made a whole career transition. I just decided that instead of physical therapy, wine was gonna be my thing. So I jumped to Lodi, took a supervisory position in a cellar, moving barrels, a lot of that stuff, and went through Davis during that, and
Okay.
kind of just decided that wine was going to be my thing now. So I embraced it, having made it before I really started enjoying it.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that is usually people kind of there's I okay. So I believe that there's three type of wine people in the wine world. People who have like had it as a child and grew up with it and it's just in their blood, right? And then there are people who have had other careers and they see wine, they're like, this is great, I enjoy it. We're going to, talk about it or what have you. And then those people who come from it from a totally like clinical way, a scientific way or what have you, and they fall into wine. So it's interesting that like you fall in that category where like this was just something that was going to help me pay for school,
Yeah.
but I was not going to, be a cellar rat. And then you turned out like, yeah, I am going to be a
Yeah,
cellar
it's an
rack.
incredible journey starting off. I mean, my first job in the wine industry was it was in the dead of winter here in the Central Valley, which I know is not snow, but it's cold, and we were working on an outside bottling line, and it was overnight. That was my start. So I graduated to dragging hoses, and then I graduated to supervising that kind of stuff, and then decided to make the winemaking leap. And I started telling people that this is what I wanted to do. And for the thousands of no's I got one really important yes, and that's what brought me to
Mhm.
Lodi. And so yeah, I stumbled upon it, which is kind of odd, but yeah, we never really drank it or discussed it. Even with my friends now, when we hang out, for the most part, they still enjoy spirits, and but it was a happy accident for me just to stumble across it. So I just kind of ran with it.
So what did you tell your parents when you were like, I was going to be a physical therapist, but now I'm going to be a winemaker. What was their reaction?
You know what? They're kind of like, hey, whatever makes you happy. I'm kind of a
Uh-huh.
Rolling Stone, I guess. So they were kind of not surprised. They're actually surprised that I've stuck with it now for 10, 12 years and started my own business. Now they're like, oh, you finally found something that you really enjoy. And I miss physical therapy. I miss the rapport I developed with the patients, and seeing them progress and actually seeing them get better. I do miss that. But there's something about wine and making, crafting.
Mhm.
To me, when people said winemaking was an art form, I thought, well, okay, you're a little fool of yourself there. But having spent years, some of the wines the one you're enjoying right now as a 2018. I mean, that took me 3 years to get to bottle from the time it was picked to the time you're enjoying it. So I do get to impart a lot of like creative juices there. So this isn't a creative outlet for me, and my parents support that wholeheartedly. They're kind of like, do what you're gonna do, because I'm one of those guys who's gonna do anything anyway. So
Right.
uh, they're like, if you're happy doing it, then do it.
That's good. Okay, so let's talk about the name because I think it's super interesting. I love all of your design work on here. Did you do the design work yourself?
Yeah, I work with a friend of mine that's in the industry. He has some experience doing labels. He went to go work in the church, so he had left. But I told him my dream and my idea, and he brought it to life. So my idea is his creative outlet, his creative abilities to make these labels. So Seis Soles has to do with the creation myth the Aztecs held. If you look at the center of the Aztec calendar, it represents they believe that the world had been created and destroyed 4 times before them, and they were the chosen people of the fifth sun god. And so growing up, my parents are from a state that is on the outskirts of the Aztec Empire. But as a
Mhm.
kid, we were just really attracted to that kind of imagery, Aztec and Mayan imagery. So when I think about how they were the chosen people of the fifth sun god, us as descendants, as Latinos now, under the sixth sun, all kind of sharing our abilities and growing in political power and purchasing power. So I say we're all together under the sixth sun, and if we're all have that in common, then we have a lot more in common. So I call it Seis Soles, six suns.
I love it. I had you had sent me the rosé, which I love and it's gone. And then I had the red cab, right? Oh, that was the cab.
Yeah, all my red blends. I have 3 blends, and they all have a cab base.
Okay. So I had that one and I had just opened it. And I also participate in a podcast called The Swirl Suite. And that day that I opened it and we were sipping, we were chatting with Ikemi.
Oh, nice.
And so I saw the same bottle in the background. So after it was over, I said, "Hey, can you hold up that bottle?" And so she did, and she was like, I was like, "Oh, I have this one." She said, "I'm not opening it because it was the last vintage, the
Yep.
last bottle of that vintage." And I was like, a whole lot of bad words in my head going, I wish I hadn't opened it. I mean, it was so good. It was
I'm glad you
so
liked it. Yeah,
incredibly
it's
good.
probably the 2018. That vintage is come and gone, and she might got one of the last bottles of it. Yeah.
Yeah, she said she got the last, and I was like,
I
"Darn
didn't even
it."
keep any myself. I don't have any myself.
Oh, man. It was incredible. So let's talk about okay, we're gonna talk about the red that we're sipping on now, and then we'll talk about, like, your winemaking style and how you intend for it to be inclusive of everyone.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the red blend that I have here today. That's made out of Lodi, and it's 14.5% alcohol. Does not taste like that at all. Really, really smooth to the palate.
Yeah, so this is a blend of 60% Syrah, 40% Cabernet. In Lodi specifically, those grapes can take different qualities than they do in other areas. So coastal cabs will be very vegetal, bell pepper, serrano pepper. In Lodi, it's really fruit forward. The Syrah actually has a little more of an earthy taste to it. So I've always loved to blend these two together to find a kind of a balance between soil and fruit. And specifically, when I think about Seis Soles, my lineup is set up so that maybe the rosé will bring you to the table if you're a new wine drinker. Then you might move to the white because it's a little more of an acid profile, a little drier, and then maybe you want to try a red. And this is my introductory red because it's fruit forward. There's a lot of a generous oak, a lot of generous fruit, so it's fun to cruise through. It's easy to cruise through. A lot of that jumps out at you, and then we mellow out those tannins. We age it out so that it's not necessarily dry or bitter. It's meant more to be just kind of a nice smooth finish because if you're new to red wine, a tannicky dry finish might be a little much and you won't want to come
Yeah.
back to it.
I think that's when you hear people who are new to red wine or don't care for red wines.
Yeah.
That's what immediately turns them off. That, they make that bitter face. um, yeah, exactly. Like,
100%.
and Chris, my mom, okay, I am a wine person. My mother only likes really sweet wine. When I say really sweet wine, Manischewitz.
Okay. I know
Okay.
it.
Okay. Which I'm like, lady, you are killing my reputation, right? you know,
I got a reputation of hold.
right? Exactly. So anytime I'm trying to introduce her to a red or what, and she just makes that face, like. So I appreciate that you take those people into consideration when you are making wine. Um, let's talk a little bit before we talk about the other wines. Let's talk a little bit about Lodi because Lodi is a really a jewel in California that a lot of people, when they think of California wine, they think of Napa, they think of Sonoma, they think of more of the Central Coast area, but not necessarily Lodi. So can you share with people what Lodi is like and what makes it so special?
Yeah, I mean, Lodi is kind of like one of those places. Like in any industry, it's a backbone. It's the workhorse of the industry. Um, this place has been growing grapes for generations. The family that I started working for when I first came to Lodi, the people that were my age, children, were the sixth generation. So you're going back 6 generations of grape growing here. Some of the vines we were making wine from were 130, 40-year-old Zinfandels. So we've been part of the winemaking community here in California as old as the history of California winemaking. And we are the biggest grape growing region in California. By tonnage and acreage. We dwarf all those other areas you're talking about. But there's folks that put in work, and then there's beautiful areas to visit that have great wine too. And Lodi just kind of fits that. We can make a lot of really accessible wines, a lot of fruit forward wines, and but there's also a lot of small artisanal stuff happening here too. So Lodi has a history of being kind of the folks that other regions built their name on, right? They might bottle in Napa, but they bought some juice out of Lodi, especially if it's Zinfandel. So now what you have is about 80, 90 taste rooms in the area. So I welcome people to come out.
Wow. Okay.
We're just kind of we're dispersed, right? So it doesn't seem like we're driving down the freeway, but there's a lot of tasting rooms here, and most of them are still owned by the family. There's not a lot of like foreign money that's come in to buy these wineries yet. So what you have is a lot of the people that grew this land, that made this wine, that are the caretakers of the land, are also pouring you the wine, right? So it's a beautiful region to be a part of. It's been my part of my life for the last 10 years, and as I grow, I hope to include wines from other areas. But I'm always gonna have a special place in my heart for Lodi for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I stumbled across Lodi, with Zinfandel.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely known for its Zinfandel, but there are a lot of other great varietals that are grown there, and a great little town, a community, a great, like, place to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of charm here, and we actually grow more Cabernet, more Chardonnay than Zinfandel. There's a lot of grapes that we grow more of, but Zin is what we're known for, and this warm region that can produce those big hearty Zins that people like. We became the household name for it.
That is really cool. So, excuse me, I have caught like a little spring cold. No COVID, just a spring cold.
I believe you.
Right. I have to like I was supposed to go to a wine tasting yesterday and I just felt like I don't want any strange looks at all. I'll
Oh
just
yeah.
yeah,
People,
I'll just
oh
I
yeah,
know. Just yeah. Especially, it's no mask on. I mean, right. So,
100%.
yeah. But what I was going to ask you is this is a discussion that we often have about being a minority in the wine community, and that there are a lot of Black people who like wine. There are a lot of Hispanic and Latin people and Spanish people who like wine too. So when you first started in the industry, did they look at you like a unicorn, like, what are you doing? Or they were open arms?
No, folks still do in a sense. I mean, when you ask that, do you mean did the community that I got into, or did the black and brown folks think a certain thing?
The community that you got into.
Yeah, so Lodi is an interesting area. So I came here with some preconceived notions. I'm not far from here, 30 minutes south. I was born in Modesto, where it's all almonds, and we have grapes out there too, but it's almonds and walnuts. So that's
Oh,
what my
okay.
family works in. Grapes are a little foreign to us. So when I came to Lodi, I remember I had a little chip on my shoulder, like waiting for somebody to say something because like I don't
Mhm.
belong here or what. But that's not what I got. What I came to realize is that like if you're a good person that can do good business and can do even the handshake deals, and you'll be welcomed into the community. But of course, now that I realize that a lot of regions are globalized, a lot of foreign investments, and they lose their charm and their individuality, I
Mhm.
understood why regions like Lodi might want to protect themselves. But if you're a good person, you're going to get a good experience. So, um, yeah, for the most part, there aren't a lot of people that look at me like me. So it was almost like I'd walk in and people were like, oh, okay, where's your boss? Where's your your winemaker? Where's your they assume I'm a cellar worker or a cellar master, which is great. A lot of Mexicanos do that and they do a great job at it. They're
Mhm.
the right hand men of most of these important people, but I wanted to make that transition to winemaking, right?
Right,
So
right.
even now when I pour my own wine, even amongst black and brown folks, they don't mean anything by it, but they'll be like, cool, man, like you're pouring some wine. This is great. I'm gonna try it. I'm like, great. And I'll say like, so I make this wine. They're like, but who makes it? Like, I'm like, no, I make the wine. They're like, no, I get that, but like, who owns it? Who's your boss? And I'm like,
Yes.
uh, I know it's not common, but let me stop you right there. I own the brand. I make the wine. And then they're like, what? They're calling their friends over, and it's a whole party after that because they're like, I didn't mean anything by it, but I just don't see it often, and I know that. So I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. So
Mhm.
no, this is mine, and there's a lot of people like me, but what I find is a portrait of the wine industry is that as a exclusive commodity, a lot of folks like to sit in their AVAs, and if you stumble across my wine, well, lucky for you, and if you like it, cool, and if not, you don't. So we don't get out in those communities. So the farther you get away from Northern California, the more it's like, what? Boom! I can't believe that there's black and brown winemakers out there. So
Mhm.
I get those innocent little kind of quirky experiences where folks are kind of like, whoa, that's pretty cool and interesting. So and they jump right on it and they're excited and they want to taste, and it makes them feel like, okay, I can try this, and it kind of feels like it's for me and it's not for others anymore.
I I I Your story is completely relatable. That has happened to me
Yeah,
plenty of times where people are like, "No, no, no, where's your boss?" I'm like, No, it's me.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
No, it's me." So in the reaction, especially amongst Black and brown people, are like, "Yes, we want to support you," which I think is always great. And I think the longer I've been in this business, um, I don't get that reaction as much before as I did before, but it still happens. And so, there's still definitely a need. Um and the other thing too about your wines is that they're really complex, multi-layered. wines. They're not like
Okay.
fermented Kool-Aid, which a lot of people then make that stereotype as well. So I'm quite sure once they taste your wines, they're like, oh my gosh, he is the real deal.
Yeah, that's the hard part of what I'm trying to do is trying to create the intersection of like new wine drinkers and experienced wine drinkers. What
Hmm.
aspects of wine can we create so that they both can sit at the table and enjoy it? And it's hard, but I've had some experience at it, and we're gonna keep at it. And the thing is, I'm open to like responses and feedback. So I'm very much making a wine with the intent of the end consumer, the person that's gonna enjoy it, and the person I'm trying to bring to the table. So my wines are very much fashioned that way. They're deliberate in making a really fun, enjoyable atmosphere. So I want people to know that. That way they'll understand. Okay, I get why maybe a bunch of us from all over the state might enjoy it because I'm not making terroir driven wine. I love wines that are supposed to represent a specific region. I get that. I love it too. I personally enjoy them, but as a brand and for new wine drinkers, because you're saying it's less and less common for folks to be kind of like surprised, and it's true. But I also see
Hmm.
that there's a lot of like black and brown wine enthusiasts, Instagrammers that are getting together, and it feels like the community's pretty big. But I feel like we're still a incredibly small part of the population overall, right? Especially when it comes to Latinos. For the 10 Instagram influencers and wine enthusiasts that I know that are very
Hmm.
active and very passionate, there's tens, hundreds of thousands that have no idea this is even going on. So that's where I'm staking my claim. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, the way I found out about you, quite honestly, is that I was looking at Vit Noir Instagram, Nicole,
Yeah, yeah, I love her.
and
Yeah,
yeah, I saw that the two of you did an IG live, and I was like, this is so cool. And often, to be honest with you, when I'm looking for wines for our online store, and I don't know if I've shared this with you before, like I will ask my distributors specifically, who are your women out there? Who are your minority winemakers or what have you? And the list is very small. So I'm always looking um, for looking, on Instagram or where posting them. And then when I find some of those brands, they just don't carry them. So we have to work directly with that. So I would love for the next step where there is like a distributor that you could go to, or multiple distributors where you are producing these boutique size wines and that you can still get them.
100%. Yeah, right now we are relying on our own communities, and it's a kind of a self-feeding mechanism that nobody intended to make. But what you have is enthusiastic folks like Vin Noir. Nicole has been a great supporter and puts my information out there. So I come across folks like you. I'm personally looking for distributorship, and it's hard to come by because it's that catch-22 where a distributor's like, well, are you established enough that you're going to stick around? Are you established enough that you have enough wine for me to distribute? And it's that catch-22 where like, well, if I was to able to get into a distributorship, I could probably go get financing to grow. And it's that catch-22. You don't have one or the other. You usually need someone to take a chance on you. So I think that's probably the biggest impediment that a lot of us have as black and brown wine tastemakers and beer makers is finding that distributor that's going to take a chance. Some people have had some success. I've seen the McBride sisters kill it, and it's just like great for them, amazing. And we just gotta capture some of the lightning in the bottle for ourselves too, and put our names out there. So if anybody's watching this and is working with a distributor, Seis Soles is looking for some representation because these tastes and flavors and styles are very well received. Whether you're in Lodi, Sacramento, LA, San Diego, Texas, I've poured it at all these spots, and people are loving it. And I'm just one guy though; I can't put it in front of them as often enough.
Yeah, definitely. Any distributors, I might have somebody for you. Um,
Excellent. All right.
yeah. If not, I know they're an importer, but I think they're also looking for local
I'll
brands
drink
too.
that.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about some of the other wines that you make. We've talked about the rosé. Do you want to tell people how your rosé, what blends you're using for your rosé?
Yeah, 100%. I think the rosé is kind of a cornerstone for me, for specifically because California has a really crazy relationship with rosés. What I remember is the '90s, where the white zin, very sweet craze was coming through, and that was huge. And then those counterculture, their children were like, well, now we want dry and super
Hmm.
brut sparklings. And I love those. We've made several like Provence style dry rosés out of Grenache, Mourvedre, Syrah, a lot of French grapes, and that can grow here in Lodi. So that's where I started. I was just responsible for whites and rosés, so I have a lot of experience in doing those. But what I saw was that within the Latino community, if you were going to start something, let's say there's a big brand out there. I'm not going to say their name, but they are like a fizzy, fruit forward. Or sometimes they put some artificial flavors in there, and it's fun to drink and it's fun to share and it's low alcohol and they're the only ones talking to the Latino community. You see their billboards everywhere, and I thought, okay, what's going on there, and how can I make a traditional version that will take some of those characteristics into play? So what I made
Mm-hmm.
was a rosé that's hand harvested, right? So these aren't machine harvested. We're taking the best bunches. We whole cluster press, so we're only extracting the best juice, immediately separating, so we get a light pink hue. And then I'm fermenting at like 55, 60 degrees at most. And that means I'm trickling. It takes me like a month and a half to ferment these. And what that does is really foster those really strong
Mm.
fruit notes that are natural to the wine, no artificial flavors added. So that Grenache and Mourvedre, which is what the rosé is made out of, really
Okay.
drive fruit and easy drinking characteristics. And then I stopped the fermentation a little short just to create a little roundness in the palate, leave a little bit of sugar, just to create that experience that's not so acidic and tart. And so
Mm-hmm.
that my folks that drink that brand or are new to wine, they drink it and they're like, oh, I didn't know this is wine. So rosé is kind of my cornerstone, that semi-sweet rosé. If you're watching this and you're saying like, I don't like sweet wines, I guarantee you're gonna taste this and be like, that's a lot less sweet than I expected, right? We're
Yeah, it
trying to
is.
find that balance where there's some sugar, but it's not heavy and it's not super sweet.
It's, I mean, it's pleasant.
Yeah,
I would have to say it's pleasant on the palate, and you do taste the sugar, but it's not overwhelming.
right. That's my
Like
hope
it,
for it, definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
And then the
yeah.
white in the same way, it's hand harvested grapes. It's Albarino and Grenache Blanc. That one's even more interesting because traditionally those grapes aren't blended together. You know, Albarino is from northern Portugal, northern Spain. Grenache Blanc's from France. But I've worked with them for a long time, and they give really good fruit characteristics. The Albarino a lot more green, apple, lime zest, and then the Grenache Blanc is going to have a little more of that passion fruit, a lot of that guava, island fruit. And I mix them together because it's just fun. The idea that wine has to be super complicated isn't always the case, right? I want people to be able to sit back with their friends and enjoy a charcuterie board, pleasantly enjoy wine while they have a good
Hmm.
conversation. So the white's another one like that, but I just make that drier. Not as acid forward once again, but that's for folks that like a little less sugar in their wine. So we have two wines that are really delicate, really easy drinking, fruit forward for two different folks.
I would have to say, it's funny because Albarino a is really big here in Maryland. I'm in Maryland,
Okay.
and I would say 6 years ago, you barely heard about
Right.
it, but it grows so well in this area. And Grenache Blanc, I see more as a blending grape that people are using it at. And my prediction that, which means nothing, um, that you'll start to see more Grenache Blanc on like a single varietal. It's going to start to stand out more because people are becoming familiar with it. It's I wouldn't say it's becoming a household name, but people are referring to it. It's one of my favorite whites to have.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. They're just really generous with fruit, and some of the areas they originate from, they're actually a lot more mineral driven, a lot more saline, maybe, and things like that. But here in
Mhm.
California, with the warmer weather, especially inland like Lodi, we're getting all fruits.
Have you did Lodi experience any of the fires at all? Did,
Somewhat, yeah. There was like a complex fire about 2 years ago near here where smoke did settle. So I mean, we were seeing a lot of smoke, smelling it. But what ended up happening is that smoke took a couple days to get to us and then settle down. So it actually didn't permeate the grape skins. So we haven't seen much of a smoke taint in the resulting wine. And
oh,
I
okay.
actually I'd be hard pressed to think of one example of anybody saying their Lodi fruit actually had smoke taint. So for not as much as Napa and Sonoma, they've been hit in some of those areas, but one or two of the years we definitely were pretty worried. But overall, we've been very lucky to be spared a lot of that damage.
So your higher end reds, tell me about those.
My two reds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have three reds. We've talked about the one, and then
Yeah.
so once again, as people are experiencing Seis Soles and they want to try to transition and try something different, I don't say it, they're moving up. I don't like saying that. You're just changing your palate and your style. So
Okay.
once you try that red, that's really easy drinking. That's meant for like backyard barbecues. It's the Thursday. You got ribs, you got pizza, you got barbecue burgers. Now you can move on to something where maybe you want something with a little elevated of an experience, right? So to me, my Gran Reserva is the drier of my three wines, right? It's the one that has a
Hmm.
little more of a tannin presence. It's kind of my red wine drinker's red wine. That one actually just got a gold in the San Francisco Chronicle competition. I'm horrible about telling people. I'm still trying to decide whether I
Congratulations.
care about medals and all that stuff, but I am trying to sell wine, so I need to tell that story, right? But that's Cab, Syrah, and Merlot. And Merlot gets a bad rap, but between people that know about wine, we don't get why people don't like Merlot. It's that silly movie that
Yes.
had a big
Yes.
effect. But that Merlot that I specifically used, that specific Merlot, had a lot of tannin and had a lot of acid, but didn't
Hmm.
have a lot of mid body. So it was great to blend with. So what it did, it was drop the alcohol on my red, kick up the acid, and kick up the tannins a little bit. And so I made kind of a drier red that, let's say if you're newer to red wine, you probably enjoy that with a nice piece of meat. If you are pretty experienced in red wine, you're gonna be like, that's my sweet spot right there, right?
Right, right.
And then on top of that, I have my Sol Tierra, which is my premium blend. Sol Tierra translates to sun and soil in Spanish because that's the most important thing in winemaking. So that's the bottle you're talking about. You had with Akimi,
Hmm.
and it's a blend of Cab, Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot, and Merlot. So what we're trying to do is create a nice fruity but structured base with a Cab. Petit Syrah is going to add that umph, that kind of like really structured and tannic profile. But if you only put a little bit, it really blends in well. And then the Petit Verdot and Merlot also offer some of that acidic profile. Petit Verdot is another unsung hero of blends that people don't talk about. But
Exactly. Hmm.
once again, I got some Petit Verdot that's not too vegetal. So in concert, those kind of created a really kind of heavier experience, but I aged it out about 26 months in the barrel. So really integrated French oak, really integrated tannin. So it's not drier, it's just really smooth. And I think people really enjoy that when they open up a bottle. I don't know if they want to have to eat with it. They want the option. This wine's versatile. You can enjoy it by itself. You can also eat a nice ribeye with it too.
Yeah, I mean, by itself is wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, often I say wine is for food, right? But this is one of those ones where you can just open it up and just have it by itself. It is outstanding.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And that was my hope for it. So we're going to keep making it that way.
It is definitely outstanding. So what's on the horizon? What's planned for the future?
I guess the next step is to try to make this something that can be my future. So I'm gonna keep telling my story, trying to find that distributor so that I could maybe, because I have a full time winemaking job. I make Seis Soles on my nights and weekends, and so if I can get to a point where I can sustain myself, that'd be my next step, and that'd be that dream. So I'm gonna be growing and trying to get my story told in LA too, and the Bay Area and up here in Northern California, but. I have a Tempranillo coming down the pipeline. I have a Sauvignon Blanc.
Ooh.
So my hope is to create a really fun wine club. So I haven't like really officially released it, but people have been signing up. They just stumble upon the page, and we're gonna do 2 releases for now, a year, and every half of the year, I'm gonna try to create some new wines that are only for that release. And once they're out, and they might come back, they might not. Because I don't know if you experienced this as a winemaker. It's kind of tough because every time someone sees you, they can see you a month later, like, "What's new?" And I'm like, "It takes me 3 years to make a wine, man.
Exactly.
Nothing, not a damn thing." But they're enthusiastic, so like maybe I need to plan around that. So what I'm trying to do is I'm gonna have my core wines. The five we discussed are gonna be there forever. But
Hmm.
every wine club release, I'm gonna do something fun, something different.
Right, right.
Maybe I'll take a single vineyard and make it in two different ways and talk to you about it. Maybe we're gonna do some really light, fizzy, fun wines and talk about that, right? So I'm gonna try to create a situation where somebody can jump into Seis Soles, whether they're experienced or new, and find something they like.
That is super cool. Yeah, it just it's not like you just add water and there's wine.
No,
You
yeah, I
know?
mean, in beers, most of the styles you can make within a couple of days. wine just doesn't function that way,
Yeah.
and it's cool. But I
Mhm.
get that people are enthusiastic, so we just gotta pivot and make it work. Because man, I worked at a winery where they always wanted new wines, but they never got rid of them. So when I left, we were making like 19, 21 wines, and it's tough.
It's crazy. And you know what? You mentioned something, and I don't think people realize this. A lot of the smaller vineyards, the boutique vineyards or what have you, the people, the winemakers, the people who own it have second jobs. Like definitely when you're starting off, unless you have major corporate investors or, venture capitalists, what have you are busting your butt. You were working 20 hours a day, especially during harvest time when you're making your wine. You have two jobs. You have to have two jobs. Like people romanticize it and what have you, but it's hard work and it is definitely a labor of love.
Sure, sure, and it comes with the territory. So any business owner that's built something that eventually bared a lot of fruit, they put in the work. So I'm no better or worse. Everyone's experiencing that, but yeah, it's 100%. You do see a lot of folks getting into the wine community as maybe they're celebrities and they got celebrity money. They're maybe I've seen a lot of folks from the tech industry that were retiring and they really
Mhm.
like the wine industry, so that's where they put their money. I just don't come from that. I come from having a little bit of savings. My 401k is shaking terrible right now because I just put all of it into Seis Soles. So until that can sustain itself, I'm just doing both, and that's cool. I'm very fortunate to do what I do. I'm very fortunate to love my job and my side job and my hustle. So yeah, we're pretty beat sometimes, but I'm happy all the time.
And so I know you're making, do you have anyone else on your team?
No, no, I'm so far myself. I hope to get some help with a lot of things because I am a winemaker by trade. So when it comes to social media, marketing, all that, it's all a
Yeah.
learning curve. But so
Oh, it
far, it's
is.
just me.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. Like the shoemaker doesn't go around going, "Oh, let me be on Instagram." No, they're making shoes. You know what I
Yeah, it's
mean?
obvious too. And I'm like, hi, Instagram. I'm it's awkward, but luckily I'm small enough. People dig it, and but I do want to get better at telling my story. And but so far, yeah. If you have some say solis, you see it. It's all me. It's all out there. I'm the only one that's put hands on it, really. So
Well, you're getting great media coverage. When I was researching you, a lot of the national publications were publishing about you. And this was, of course, definitely around the George Floyd area. Are you still getting that same type of coverage that is, 2 years later?
I'm getting a lot of like organic, small love. And we're all trying to grow,
Okay.
right? You're probably trying to grow what you're doing. Let's
Right.
collaborate. I don't know if I felt that like if I had any kind of national headlines. I think around then, and I know that some national brands have briefly mentioned me, but I haven't personally talked to anybody on a large scale. So I'm looking forward to that. But there's still a lot of enthusiasm out there, though. There's still a lot of folks that have a lot of energy about this, and I'm gonna be approaching. But that's part of the thing is that like there's also people that are really skilled in reaching out to publications and telling them I'm here if you want to talk to me, and I'm
Right.
just not good at that. I just smile and people are like, hey, let's help out this happy dummy and send them a bone. Yeah, and I'm like, cool, I'll take it. But um, I was always worried when that fervor around what sprung up after George Floyd was murdered,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
it would die down. And to a certain extent, it has, especially on a national scale. But the same people
Right.
that came in to enjoy those black and brown wines, they're still here, I think. So
Yes,
it's still going for sure.
which is awesome. So, I'm not going to hold you much longer, but I have some questions for you about the holidays are this weekend, Easter and Passover. So, what would you recommend for people for their Easter brunch or dinner or their Passover meal? What wine would you suggest that they serve?
I think if I'm trying to just capture everybody, I like the white blend when it comes to Easter because I'm thinking a lot of finger foods, aram sandwiches, stuff that we can share.
Hmm.
So I like the white blend, which is Albarino and Grenache Blanc. Once again, it's really fruit forward, and if you're enjoying it with food, I think it really blends well because there's an acid profile to there, but not too strong. And if you're having a late night dinner, I think the red blend that you showed, Syrah and Cabernet, it tends to thread that needle a little better, where it's for folks that are new and folks that enjoy wine already. So I would suggest those two, especially because sometimes, Easter dinner is someone's bringing a potato salad, someone's bringing this, someone's bringing that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Mhm.
bold flavors that are going to be there, and you need a bold wine to kind of stand up to that.
I definitely agree. So, can you tell people where to find you?
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is at the number six SOLES.com. Seis Soles. So Instagram six SOLESVINO. Seis Soles Vino.
Mhm.
And then my wines can be purchased on seisoles.com. That's the number six SOLES.com. I ship everywhere. That's where I really handle all of my business. And my Instagram, I'll be kind of demonstrating where I'm going to pick up right now and do a lot more pop ups. So if you're in Central Valley or LA, Orange County, San Diego, keep an eye out because I'm going to be traveling to your area pretty soon.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. I know this is like in the middle of the day for you, so I
No, no
appreciate you
problem.
taking time. And you'll see Seis Soles Wines soon on the Wine Concierge. So probably at the beginning of May, end of mid-May, or what have you, you will see them there. But in the meantime, please support Chris. He is an amazing winemaker. And just at least give him a shout out on Instagram.
That's right. That's right. I appreciate all the love.
Thank you so much. And for the Wine Concierge family, we are going to do some spring cleaning. I'm quite sure, Chris, you're familiar with this. And we are coming out with our mystery box. So stay tuned to see what will be in our mystery box, but it will be deep discounts because we are cleaning the cupboards. So again, happy holidays to those who celebrate Easter and Passover, and we will chat with you soon. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye, everybody.